Okay, welcome back. I'm getting ready to plant my mustard, turnip, and collard greens. And if you followed along with us, you know that I irrigated this field to try to get the volunteer peas to come up so I can spray them before I plant. So I'm out here today spraying, and hopefully I will start on the planter in the morning. Okay, all this green right here is volunteer peas. Hardly no weeds, just peas. That's what we're trying to kill. I'm using Liberty, so it's a contact. It doesn't translocate through the plant. If you were using something like Roundup or something that translocates, you would need a true leaf on those little cotyledon stage peas. So we're going with a high rate of Liberty and a pretty hot surfactant to go with it. It has not rained since I've cut these peas down, so if I had not watered them, the peas would not have come up until either we watered the greens when we planted them or it rained. Either way, they would be in straight competition, you know, with the greens. The fact that we're not disturbing the beds, you know, we're planting the greens right into the bed. Hopefully we won't stir any more pea seed around too much, and hopefully we won't have too many more come up from this point forward. Okay, this morning I've got my little one-row air planter hooked up to the big tractor. We'll run it on auto steer and get these greens planted. I'm gonna start with the mustard. Probably 3/4 of the field will be mustard, and then the other 1/4 will be divided into turnips and collards. That's kind of the demand that I have, kind of in that ratio. If you've never seen mustard green seed or turnip seed, any of that, it is tiny, tiny. That is one seed, that little speck. It looks like a freckle. Probably smaller than a freckle. That is one mustard seed. It's about 240,000 seed per pound for mustard. I have a hard time handling the seed because it's so small with the planter. I used to do it a couple different ways when I got my little one-row air planter. It does a good job, but I have a hard time on the big tractor putting out too much pressure on the fan, so I use more seed than I really need. It's not easy handling that seed because it's so small. It's not the fastest way to do it in the world, one row at a time, but I can knock it out in a day. If you watched my videos before, you know that beeping sound is my monitor on this one-row air planter. I took a seed tester that you test for sensors. It's not really a seed tester, it's a sensor tester. Like for my big planter, I can unplug each row and plug the little tester in and test it to see if those sensors are working. When I got this planter, it didn't have a sensor, so I put one in it, but it didn't have a monitor. So I used this seed sensor tester, so it works backwards. Normally on like my big planter, if there's a problem, it beeps. Well, this one, it beeps when everything's working right, so it's a little bit annoying. But it lets me know everything's working and, you know, the seeds dropping and all that. So I don't use it a lot. So mainly I use it for planting greens and planting my sweet corn. So it's not that big of an issue. I would say the greens are one of my most favorite crops to grow because it's the easiest. Once I plant them, water them, get them up, cultivate them a time or two. If we have a chance, we'll get the guys to come through and hoe them one time, maybe to get any more peas or little pig weeds or something that's come up. Spray them a couple times for insecticide treatments, and that's it. It's all 100% you pick. So we have tons of people out here every October and November, and I don't have to do anything. So that makes it nice. It's a big attraction for us. If we didn't have it, I could certainly be able to tell a difference in the sweet potato sales, because so many people come and will do both. Pick up their sweet potatoes, come pick greens. So it's real important for us to have nice weather in October and November, which generally we don't get a lot of rain then. We keep it open until New Year's, roughly, but after Thanksgiving, the demand and the people that come out drops. It's usually colder, sometimes it's wetter. We have to close it when it's wet, and then people are kind of gearing up all their money towards Christmas and that kind of stuff. And the greens are not quite as pretty as they are at the end of the season compared to October and November. But it's something I started doing, probably from the very beginning when I started. And I still have some of those same people that have come from the very beginning that come out and pick. The majority of the people pick for themselves, but we do let people pick truckloads that resell. So we do have some of those guys too, some of the same ones that come buy watermelons and stuff. I mentioned that I was a little bit behind on the greens planting. It's because you go all the way back to when I planted this field of peas, which was planting number 6. It was wet. And so I was a little bit later getting it in than I wanted to be on my schedule. Well, because of that, it's a little bit later getting ready on the back end. It lasted a little bit longer than normal. So we got in here and cleaned it all up and started working on it as soon as we were through picking the peas, but I didn't want to do it before we were finished. So that's how my timing affects everything. I really would have liked to have had these greens planted 5 to 7 days ago, but because of that, I couldn't. So I've talked a lot about timing all through the year, and probably will every year, because it's such an important part of what I do. Everything revolves around timing, because we plant so many different times of different things, and then you double crop, and then you try to have stuff ready. So all right, let's look and see if we can find some seed. It's gonna be pretty hard to show you on the camera, but I'm gonna try. All right, these little peas are starting to show a little bit of sign of stress from being sprayed. Those do. This one right here, these right here, not so much, but it's been a little over 24 hours. Come back tomorrow, you'll definitely be able to tell. Okay. Is it possible to see that? Look on the very tip of my knife. I'm gonna point to it right there. There. These were some seed I just dug up. They're just barely under the dirt. A couple right here. You don't want to bury them too much because they're such a small seed, but they'll be up soon once they get some water. These flags that I have will represent the drive road. We have to leave spaces for people to drive their vehicles down through the field so they can pick. But the drive rows are spaced apart, so it fits perfect with my boom, in between, so I'm spraying. So makes it, more efficient that way. I think we've got four drive rows across the middles, plus they can drive around the outside. Waiting on the poly pipe to fill up with water. Almost all the layouts of all of our fields, no matter what the crops are, except for the peas, we lay everything out to fit our boom widths when we're spraying. Everything on the plastic, the late watermelons you've just seen us pick. Last video, I showed you that from the air on the drone. On the sweet potato field, the width of the sweet potato field is the exact width to make us hit just perfect on our spray swaths. You know, we don't just lay the fields out without thinking ahead of time. So the peas are different. We just fill in, you know, the fields of the peas, but everything else is kind of strategically planned on how many rows and drive rows and all that to fit our equipment. All right, well, all we gotta do now is just wait till it gets to the end. It's probably 4:30 in the afternoon, so I'm gonna let it run all night, check it in the morning. That way I can kind of tinker with it a little if I need to plug some holes or something on some of the rows, because they don't all get exactly to the end at the same time, so I like to do that in the daylight. So we'll let it run all night. See what it looks like in the morning, and those greens are gonna come up fast. You know, you don't plant them but about that deep, you know, just barely cover it. So there's no moisture there because we've worked it up. If you were gonna dig down, you know, an inch or more or so, there's moisture if you were gonna plant, you know, something regular, a bigger seed. But because it's right on top of the ground, you gotta water it again or wait for a rain. So there's no rain coming that I know of. So it's Friday afternoon. I feel like probably by Monday, those greens will be up. So I'll give it a few days, come back and get some more video when the greens are up and the peas are hopefully fried. Okay, fast forward to Monday, and we're gonna look at the greens, see what they look like. Okay, you can see them coming up right down the row. See these peas are mostly pretty brown. There may still be a little bit of green in a few of those peas. Hopefully they won't come back, but see right down the row. I'm sure we'll have a few more peas come up after we watered them that second time, but if we have time, we'll hoe them one time, but you gotta let some of that get up big enough. We'll wait until maybe, I don't know, a week or so. Maybe cultivate. That'll get some of those peas right on the edge of the shoulders of the row, and then whatever's left, anything that comes up or greens back up, we'll hoe them along with anything else that's coming up. All right, well, I checked every row and it looks like they're all up. The fact that it all got watered, you know, I'm pretty confident that it's all up all the way down. So that's good. Now we just got to give it time. I would like not to have to water them. Hopefully we'll catch a rain or two, but if we need to, we'll water them again in a couple of weeks. They don't need a lot of water. If it's not blazing hot, you know, we really don't want them ready before October 1st because of the heat. You know, you don't want them bolting and going to seed and all that too early. But anyway, I got good moisture in the field. Looks like stand is good, so just gotta wait and see. That was a B-52 bomber. We are in the flight path on the descent back to Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier. And that's where the B-52s are stationed. I think when I was younger, I think maybe they were all stationed there. I'm not positive about that, but I think now some of them are, and some of them are in maybe Minot, North Dakota. But we're right here on the flight path. So there'll be days, especially years ago, I think when they had more of them, when they would do training or something, it would be literally one after the other all day long. You know, maybe if you were in town, you might not notice it so much, but when you're out here kind of in the wide open, you notice them and you can see them. You hear them, but you usually see them more than you hear them because you'll be on a tractor or whatever. But you know, it's not every day, but it's only whenever they're either training or coming back from somewhere. But anyway, I thought somebody might be interested in that. All right, before we go, I'm going to show you what we're doing out here with the plastic mulch lifter. We got it running and starting to clean up these old plastic beds. The tractor's on his way back. I'll show you when he gets back up here and turns around. This is a row he's already done. When you're looking at it, and I'll show you here in a minute, it picks it up, splits it, and so that plastic is just kind of loose right here. And so, of course, there's a drip line underneath right here. So I've got the guys starting on the west side of the field. We got one on each side just walking, pulling that plastic up all the way down because that mulch lifter has kind of lifted it up and loosened it. And then another one will be going behind and pulling that drip tape all the way. And then they'll just pile it up like over there where we started. Just pile it up in piles and then we'll pick it up. So here comes the tractor coming back at us. These were all watermelon and cantaloupe rows. You can still see a few of the old vines. I've cut it, plowed the middle, sprayed it. So there's not a whole lot left that's green. I've got some nut grass in places, but most of it's pretty crispy, so it should pick up pretty easy. Dusty. Right after I showed you the B-52, I had 3 more come over. Well, that's not too much of a fun job, but it's something that's got to be done. So it'll take us a few days at least, maybe longer, but we'll get it all done. Then we'll come back with a kind of a reverse plow to knock those beds, flatten them out, and then plow it all up. And then before you know it, it'll be time to plant cover crops, probably late September. The thing I didn't mention on the greens was fertilizer. Believe it or not, normally I don't put out fertilizer. I just kind of rely on the residual that's left over. But the last year or two, it's kind of appeared that it needed some. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it this year. I did not mention that. I'm gonna do that probably tomorrow. So we'll sling it out with the spreader buggy dry, just a one-time deal. So just wanted to remind you again how small these seed are. And it's just kind of amazing if you stop and think about it, that something so small can produce something so big. You know, that field of greens out there, it'd feed an army of people from a sack full of seed that are tiny, tiny. So that's pretty amazing if you think about it. I'll show you one more time what the seed looks like. You know, if you threw them up in the air on a windy day, they'd probably be blown who knows where. They're just so light and so small. I can't help but be reminded every year when I plant the mustard, the parables in the Bible that Jesus talks about faith of a mustard seed. Well, you've seen how tiny they are. You know, our faith is represented by that mustard seed, and he talks about the faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain, and the mountain is kind of represented by him and his power and what he can do. So our faith, a little bitty tiny mustard seed in him, can do great things. So anyway, that's the Bible lesson for today. Next video will probably be cabbage planting. Hopefully that'll happen right after Labor Day, and we'll show you that process. Hopefully we can knock it out and get it done on a timely manner. And still picking watermelons, probably a week or so past Labor Day, and hopefully we'll get the plastic cleaned up here by the end of this week. So until then, see y'all next time.